All right, let's dive into Diane Setterfield's Bellman Black.
Oh, this is a good one.
It really is. This book, it kind of bends genres,
Mhm.
part gothic novel, part like deep philosophical reflection on life.
Yeah, I see that.
So today, let's uncover some of those key themes and maybe figure out why this story just grabs hold of you.
It does, doesn't it? It sticks with you.
Right. It makes you think about those big questions, life, death, what we leave behind, all that.
Definitely. It's not your typical light read.
No, not at all.
Eh,
Okay, so right off the bat, Bellman Black tackles life and death in a really unique way. What stood out to you about Setterfield's take on this?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is how she connects life and death.
Oh, yeah.
They're not separate, you see. Death isn't just this, like, end point way off in the distance. It's a constant presence.
It's woven into everything.
Exactly. And it shapes how the characters make decisions, how they live their lives.
I like how it's not preachy or morbid, though. It just feels real, like a fundamental truth we can't escape.
Right, it's just there. And she uses such powerful images to drive that point home, especially those birds.
Oh, the birds. What do you make of all the birds, especially the rooks?
They're almost like characters themselves, wouldn't you say? Always lurking, watching.
Always there in the background.
And those settings, those gothic interiors, the landscapes, they feel almost otherworldly, don't they?
Yeah, a little bit.
They're not just backdrops, they reflect what's going on inside William, the main character, adding to the mystery.
You know, that makes me think of that scene where William sees the rook on the tombstone.
Oh, yes, that word.
It's like a perfect image for how Setterfield views life and death. They're inseparable, constantly circling each other.
Exactly. And that scene, it's so important because it foreshadows everything that happens to William.
Like his fate is sealed from that encounter.
Right. It's like that encounter with the rook, this symbol of death, sets him on a path he just can't get off of.
But it's not all doom and gloom, right? The book also explores this deep human need to leave a mark on the world, the whole idea of legacy.
Oh, absolutely. That's a huge theme. And each character grapples with it in their own way.
Some want to leave a legacy through their work, like William, with his drive for success.
Right. And then you have characters like Dora who find it in the connections they make, the love they share.
So is Setterfield saying there are different ways to make a lasting impact? What do you think? Is it about achievements, or is it something quieter, like how our choices ripple out and affect others?
That's the question, isn't it? And the book doesn't give us any easy answers.
It makes you think, though.
It does. But remember that scene where William's so caught up in his business, he neglects his family.
Oh, yeah.
That's a reminder that this pursuit of legacy, if we're not careful, it can have a cost.
It can make us miss what really matters.
Exactly. The people we love, the moments we share.
It's a powerful message.
And, you know, that brings us to how the novel explores choice and consequence.
Oh, yeah.
Setterfield really highlights how even small decisions, ones you think don't matter much, can have these big repercussions.
Yeah, totally.
It's like every choice we make, it creates these ripples.
Like a chain reaction.
Yeah, exactly. A chain reaction.
Spreading out, affecting other people, shaping the future.
Shaping the future, yeah. And think about William.
Okay.
You know how, as a kid, he's fascinated by the Wooks.
Yeah.
And then he makes that choice to shoot at them. It seems small, right?
Yeah.
But it ends up setting him on this path toward darkness.
It's like a turning point for him.
It is, and it shows how actions, even seemingly insignificant ones, can have these huge, unforeseen consequences.
It makes you wonder about our own choices, doesn't it?
It really does.
What choices have we made that have shaped our lives?
And how have those choices affected the people around us? It's pretty deep stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's deep, but it's important to think about.
It is.
And, you know, the novel doesn't just focus on individual choices. It also looks at time as this powerful force.
Yeah, right.
Time shapes everything, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
And Bellman Black, time, it's both relentless,
Okay.
but it's also reflective.
What do you mean?
Well, on one hand, time marches on.
Ah.
It pushes the characters forward toward their destinies.
Good.
But on the other hand,
Yeah.
time gives us a chance to look back and see how our past choices
Right.
have shaped where we are now.
So time is both a driving force and a lens through which we can view our lives. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It's like Setterfield is saying that by understanding how time works, we can start to understand our own experiences and the choices we've made.
I like that.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it is.
And it challenges us to think about our own relationship with time. you know?
Okay.
How do we see it? Are we trapped by it, or do we see it as a chance to learn and grow?
That's a good question.
It is, isn't it?
For me, honestly, it's kind of both.
I think that's true for a lot of us.
Sometimes I feel like time's just slipping away.
Yeah, I feel that too.
But other times I can see how it helps us learn from our mistakes,
Yeah.
you know?
That's the thing with Setterfield's writing. She doesn't give us easy answers.
Right.
She throws these big, complex ideas at us and lets us wrestle with them on our own.
I like that.
It's thought-provoking. It is.
It is, and her writing style is a big part of that too, right? It's so elegant, so lyrical.
Oh, definitely.
The pacing.
Yeah.
It's deliberate.
Yeah, like she wants us to really soak it all in.
Exactly. To savor the atmosphere, to think about what's going on beneath the surface.
And the way she describes the natural world,
The rooks, the wind, the seasons changing.
it's almost poetic.
It is. It really is.
And those descriptions, they're not just there to be pretty.
Oh, no.
They're tied into the story.
Not
They
really.
highlight those big themes, you know, life, death, time passing by.
I see that, yeah.
Remember when William is a kid and he's mesmerized by those rooks circling in the sky?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That foreshadows his later fascination with them, you know? Their connection to death.
It's like he's drawn to this darkness even as a child.
He is, and that sense of mystery, it runs through the whole book.
Totally.
Setterfield uses symbolism, foreshadowing, and that evocative language to create this atmosphere of intrigue.
And suspense.
Yeah, you're always trying to figure things out, right?
Always. Try to untangle the mysteries, understand what it all means.
Speaking of meaning, let's go back to that idea of legacy.
Okay.
What do you think Setterfield is trying to tell us about this human need to leave a mark on the world?
That's a tough one.
It is. It is.
But I think she's suggesting that maybe true legacy isn't about big accomplishments or material things.
Interesting.
Maybe it's more about the relationships we build,
Yeah, I see that.
the love we give, the impact we have on other people.
Even in small ways.
Even in small ways, exactly.
That's a really insightful observation.
Thank you.
And it connects to that idea that we're all interconnected.
We are, aren't we?
Our choices, our actions, they have these ripple effects, you know?
It's like we're all part of this big web.
We are. And we may never fully understand how we affect each other.
And that's where the book's message really hits home, I think.
It does, doesn't it?
It reminds us that even though death is inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
our lives still have meaning.
They do. And that meaning
Yeah.
often comes from our connections with each other.
It's a beautiful message. Yeah, it's like each life is this tapestry, you know, woven together with all these threads, choices, consequences, and time just keeps moving forward.
That's a great way to put it. And even though death is always there, looming, the impact of what we do can echo even after we're gone.
It can't it? So, bringing it back to something we talked about before, this book, it's a Gothic novel, sure, but it's also so much more. What do you think about how Setterfield blends those elements?
Well, she takes those classic Gothic things, the darkness, the shadows, that feeling like something bad's about to happen, and she uses them to explore these really deep philosophical questions.
It's like she's not afraid of the darkness, but finds beauty and meaning in it, like the rooks, for instance.
Yes.
The rooks.
They're often seen as symbols of death, but they're also incredibly smart social creatures.
Right. There's this complexity to them, just like the themes in the book.
You know what I find really interesting? The way Setterfield uses the Gothic setting to almost reflect what's going on inside William.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, as he gets more and more caught up in his guilt, his obsession with the rooks, the world around him seems to get darker, more oppressive.
It's like the setting becomes a physical representation of his inner turmoil. The shadows, the fog, those rooks always watching.
Exactly. They all reflect that darkness growing inside of him.
And it's not just William either. The way the natural world is described, it changes throughout the book, right?
Yeah, you're right. Like mirroring the characters' emotional journeys. It's almost like the landscape itself is another character reacting to the people in it.
It is, and that's part of what makes this book so captivating. It's got all these layers to unpack, the symbolism, how the characters evolve, that interplay between the Gothic atmosphere and the philosophical themes. I think that's why it sticks with you. You know, it's not just a story you read and forget. It's an experience that makes you really think about your own life, the choices you make, and what you want to leave behind.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Bellman Black, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. If you could send a message to your future self years, maybe even decades from now, what would it be? What wisdom would you share, knowing what you know now?
That's a great question to ponder. It really makes you think about what truly matters. What advice would you give to your future self based on what we've uncovered in this deep dive?
Maybe a reminder to cherish the moments, big and small, to appreciate the connections we have with others, and never lose sight of how our choices can impact everything.
Beautifully said. And to our listener, we encourage you to think about that question for yourself. What message would you send to your future self? You might be surprised by what you discover. Until next time,